I have a letter in my pocket. His instructions. Open it only when they start pressuring me. The sound of the paper gets louder every day, urging me to break the seal. I keep delaying the reveal, knowing the contents could save me but completely shatter the family I desperately want to keep. Yet, my mother-in-law keeps turning up the dial on her accusations. When I finally expose the truth, no one will be safe from the fallout. Late summer sun draped West Philadelphia in honey and rust stripes, polishing every stoop like a well-loved trumpet. Naya Carter coasted her bike past row houses whose brick fronts kept stories the way old men keep domino scores, half boast, half bruise. At the corner bodega, 2 kids chased a broken Spalding, the thump echoing in her ribs. She parked beside a fire hydrant plastered with campaign stickers, tugged down her dress hem, and rested a palm on the tote at her hip. Inside that canvas waited a sealed envelope the color of dry tobacco. Elijah Brooks had pressed it into her hand a month before his final breath, raspy whisper telling her, "Don't open unless you have to." Ever since, the wax seal burned against her phone and lip balm like a slow ember. Today, opposite the probate office, it felt volcanic. She tilted her face to the sky, one inhale, one whispered psalm, then pushed through the firm's heavy oak doors. Air conditioning slapped summer from her skin. The lobby smelled of pledge polish, stale coffee, and something faintly floral. Maybe the receptionist's perfume or fading optimism. Regina Brooks lounged in a leather chair, straight-backed as an ex-cop on inspection day. Lavender suit, matching pillbox hat, and a pearl pin shaped like a cross. Sunday best deployed on Thursday morning for psychological effect. Regina's daughter Taisha scrolled her phone, acrylic nails clacking like impatient castanets. She raised one eyebrow at Naya, assessing the plain dress, the scuffed flats, then resumed filming herself, blowing a kiss into the camera. Content never sleeps. Naya took the seat farthest from them, crossing her ankles so they wouldn't jiggle. The envelope in her bag felt heavier than a mortgage. A stout man with silver-flecked hair stepped into the doorway and cleared his throat. "Mrs. Brooks, Ms. Carter, Ms. Taisha Brooks, I'm Bernard Ellis. Thank you for being punctual." Formal syllables floated above his sensible tie as he ushered them into a paneled conference room. Green glass desk lamps glowed like patient lizards. Regina moved first, heels staccato on hardwood. Taisha trailed, phone held low but camera still rolling. A red recording dot glimmered. Naya followed, feeling as if she were walking into a swimming pool full of cold ink. "Mr. Ellis gestured to 3 chairs before an oak desk, then opened a thick file. The clock on the wall ticked louder than traffic outside. For the first 5 minutes, Ellis spoke in probate dialect. Docket numbers, deed descriptions, witness affidavits. Naya's heartbeat matched the clock, steady until it wasn't. She forced herself to notice details. A chipped inkwell on the shelf, the faint scorch mark on a lampshade, how Mr. Ellis rubbed his left thumb with his index finger when reading legal citations. Anything to stay rooted. And then he said the sentence that split the morning. All real property owned solely by the late Mr. Elijah Brooks, including the 4-bedroom brownstone at 4606 Walton Avenue, is hereby bequeathed in full to Ms. Naya Brooks Carter. Silence swept the room like a curtain drop. Taisha's phone thunked onto the carpet, recording upward at fluorescent tubes. Regina's smile drained, leaving the shape but none of the color. She leaned forward, a voice a hiss. "There must be a misprint." Ellis adjusted his glasses. "The language is unambiguous." He tapped the page once, a gavel in miniature. The sound jolted Naya from trance. Heat rushed her cheeks, but her spine lengthened as if the chair back had grown another inch for her to lean on. Regina's fingers flattened on the desk. "My granddaughter deserves her grandfather's home." Elijah always said blood should keep the hearth. Her tone slid from ice to syrup. Naya, dear, you're still young. You can build your own nest. Think of Taisha. Tiny apartment, rent climbing, no space for future children. Naya opened her tote, breathing through the tremor fluttering beneath her breastbone. She pulled the sealed envelope, the wax now cracked by heat and months of waiting. She broke it cleanly, the scent of Elijah's pipe tobacco ghosted into the room. Ink in his steady cursive greeted them. If you are reading this, Regina has challenged my will, and Naya's quiet heart is in the crossfire. Let it be known, the house is hers by my choice, and for my reasons. Ellis nodded for her to continue. She read aloud, voice low but clear. The letter painted scenes. Regina persuading Elijah to mortgage the brownstone for a cousin's doomed restaurant. Taisha proposing an Airbnb flip. The nursing home silence when they stopped visiting. It described Naya's afternoon readings of Toni Morrison, her chess matches with Elijah, the time she smuggled in peach cobbler and sweet laughter. She saw me as a man, not a wallet, he wrote, and so the house that carried my dignity now carries hers. When Naya folded the pages, the conference room felt smaller, as though walls leaned in to listen better. Taisha's mascara-rimmed eyes glistened, filming forgotten. Regina pressed fingers to her pearls, searching them for answers. The clock ticked on. Naya inhaled, lips almost trembling. Yet her words arrived even. Mr. Ellis, please outline the next steps. Rain started tapping the windows, though the sky stayed bright. Regina exhaled something like smoke, but no one offered her a lighter. That afternoon, Naya walked the 7 blocks from the law office to Walton Avenue with a deed copy clutched in a manila folder. Clouds brewed the color of pewter over Market Street. Passing cars sent up gritty wind. She half expected Regina's Cadillac to screech alongside. Declarations of contest papers waved like battle flags, but the street remained hers. The brownstone stood mid-block, 3 stories of weathered brick and wrought iron balconies, a chess king among pawns. Ivy curled along the lintels, threatening to swallow the stained glass transom if left unchecked. Naya had visited Elijah here countless Sundays, yet crossing the threshold with her own key startled her heartbeat into a fresh rhythm. Inside, wallpaper yellowed by decades and nicotine greeted her with the hush of a church between hymns. Floorboards creaked hello. She set the folder on the foyer table where Elijah once kept a dish of peppermint for neighborhood kids. The chessboard sat undisturbed on the parlor ottoman. Pieces mid-game, Black King cornered but not resigned. A floor lamp leaned where Elijah had tripped the week before his stroke. Its shade wore a dent like a healed scar. Naya righted it, testing the bulb. Soft light spilled and dust danced up in lazy spirals. She opened heavy curtains. Sunlight carved paths across parquet floors, waking particles of history. She wandered room to room, not touching yet. The kitchen smelled faintly of Old Bay and Lemon Joy soap. On the fridge, a faded coupon for fried crab cakes clung by a magnet shaped like the Liberty Bell. In the bedroom, a quilt of mismatched fabric squares lay folded, one patch embroidered Sergeant B, thread now loosened. The house breathed Elijah, but also something else. Anticipation. Naya realized the feeling wasn't ownership, it was stewardship. She would have to mend roof leaks, argue with zoning for gutters, oil banisters, pay taxes. The brownstone asked not, "How will you use me?" but "How will you honor me?" Rain began in earnest, pattering the bay window. She opened the parlor cabinet, found Elijah's record player. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On waited on the spindle as if expecting the next needle drop. She set it spinning. Music rolled through corridors, soulful as memory yet urgent as newsprint. Naya sank onto the sofa. Let minor chords stitch around the beating of gutter water. Outside, thunder nudged the afternoon closer to dusk. Somewhere beyond the downpour, Regina plotted next moves. Naya could almost hear the older woman's voice, resentment disguised as righteousness, but the brownstone's walls muffled such echoes. The final saxophone note vanished, leaving nothing but rain and her own slow breathing, calmer now than at any time since Marcus's funeral. 3 evenings later, footsteps sounded on the stoop. Naya paused mid-box unpacking, wiping dust with a dish towel. Through the fanlight, she saw Taisha beneath streetlight glow, umbrella folded like surrender. Naya opened the door, cautious 6 inches. Taisha's eyeliner had smudged, cheeks streaked. "Can we talk?" In the kitchen, steam rose from twin mugs of peppermint tea. Taisha traced a finger around the cup rim, avoiding Naya's gaze. Finally, "Mama hired a lawyer. She wants to claim undue influence. She says you twisted Grandpa." Naya folded her hands. "And you?" "I don't know." Taisha's voice cracked. "Grandpa loved that I dreamed big, but he didn't always love the dreams. Losing this house feels like losing him again." Naya studied her, noticing fatigue under glamour, the weight of expectations Regina strapped on her daughter. "This house isn't a trophy. It's work. It leaks. The boiler's older than both of us." She managed a half smile. "Want a tour?" They climbed narrow stairs, wood sighing under each step. Naya pointed out the attic Elijah had meant to convert into a writing nook, the peeling ceiling rose he never repainted, the loose window latch he kept forgetting. Taisha ran fingertips over dusty banister spindles, eyes softening. Back in the parlor, chess pieces still waited. Naya gestured. "He taught me to play defense." Said patience beats bravado. Taisha picked up a white pawn, rolled it between nails, no longer recording content. "He taught me how to bluff," she murmured. Rain mumbled against the windows again, Philadelphia autumn making promises of colder nights. Naya broke the silence. "If your mother sues, I'll fight. Not for spite. Because Elijah trusted me," she let that settle, then added, "But there's room in this house for more than one future." Taisha's brows lifted. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the attic still wants to be a studio. And I'm one social worker salary. Maybe we write a new board together, under one condition: no flipping for quick cash, no turning memories into clickbait. We honor the man who built the foundation." Taisha stared at the pawn, then set it on e4, the classic opening move. "Let me think." "Mama's roar is louder than your calm." She stood, shoulders higher. "But your calm feels heavier." When the door closed behind her, Naya exhaled, unsure whether she just invited harmony or Trojan horse. She returned to the chessboard, answered the pawn with black knight to f6. The game had begun again, but this time the pieces belonged entirely to her. She flipped Elijah's record, needle settling into the first crackle of "Mercy, Mercy Me." Outside, the rain eased. Somewhere in the hush between drops, she thought she heard applause. Only leaves, probably, but it made her smile. Across town, Regina's living room lamp burned late, illuminating court documents and family photographs, lined up like jurors. Yet, in a corner of that house, even Regina had once kept a seed packet Elijah mailed from Louisiana with a post-it. "Plant these when you're ready to see something grow that isn't anger." The packet remained unopened, but seasons keep turning. Naya closed the curtains, leaving the street to its own battles. Inside, the brownstone felt warmer than the radiator justified. She whispered goodnight to the empty rooms. They whispered back, and for the first time in years, she believed she could hear herself in the echo. October's chill arrived, as if someone had left a freezer door open over Philadelphia. Naya woke to the clatter of the mail slot and a draft that smelled of distant snow. She padded down the stairs wrapped in Elijah's old cardigan, each step echoing in rooms, still deciding whether to call her owner or merely guest. The envelope on the foyer rug carried the thick weight of legal paper and the perfumed ghost of lavender, Regina's signature scent. The letterhead read Brooks and Jameson, family law. Inside, 2 pages of allegations unspooled. Undue influence, diminished mental capacity, wrongful withholding of ancestral property. Phrases like motion to contest testamentary validity stabbed between lines. At the bottom, an elegant flourish. Regina May Brooks, on behalf of Taisha Brooks. Naya sank onto the stair, letter trembling between fingers gone cold. The silence of the brownstone stretched, expectant, as if walls wondered whether she would surrender their story so soon. She forced slow breaths, the way Elijah had taught her during chess endgames. Air in on possibilities, air out on fear. She called Bernard Ellis. His receptionist transferred her without hello. He must have anticipated this. "I've seen the filing," Ellis said, voice steady as a metronome. "They're claiming you manipulated Mr. Brooks." Naya laughed once. Dry, barked. "With what? Poetry and soup?" "Emotion can be a sharp tool in litigation narratives," Ellis warned, "but evidence cuts sharper." "We'll respond within the statutory 20 days. After the call, Naya brewed coffee strong enough to stand a spoon. Steam fogged the kitchen window, obscuring the row houses across the street, homes where neighbors argued about utility bills, not legal exhibits. She rubbed condensation away with her sleeve as if clearing a future. That afternoon, she cycled to the community center where she counseled seniors. Normally, their chatter, knees, grandkids, politics, reset her compass, but today, words brushed past without landing. Miss Lenora noticed and patted Naya's wrist. "Baby, you stirring soup and tasting worry. What's on the stove?" Naya shared the letter in broad strokes. Lenora's gaze sharpened. "Land tussles separate wheat from weeds. Remember, dirt can't lie and neighbors don't forget kindness. Keep them seeds watered." The advice felt cryptic, yet comforting. At dusk, she rode back. Along Lancaster Avenue, headlights of SEPTA trolleys flicking gold across slick pavement. An orange banner over the library announced Neighborhood Fall Festival. Volunteers needed. Elijah had loved autumn festivals, especially the pie contest he judged with ruthless fairness. "Crust must crumb like true repentance, child." Naya resolved to sign up. Keeping Elijah's traditions alive felt like laying bricks against Regina's legal bulldozer. Inside the brownstone, she reread every line of the lawsuit beneath a desk lamp's yellow cone. Halfway through, thunder rolled distant, the kind that rattles window latches and memories. She imagined courtroom benches, Regina's glare, Taisha's Instagram posts spinning the fight into viral drama. Her pulse drummed. Yet another picture overlaid it. Elijah planting marigolds by the stoop, telling her, "The loud boys on the corner respect roots. They just don't know it yet." She folded the letter, slid it into a kitchen drawer beside loose buttons and rubber bands. Some battles needed steel, others needed patience. For the first time that evening, she noticed the smell of cinnamon drifting up from the radiator. Residual fragrance from the pies Elijah once baked for the church bazaar. She let that scent anchor her to a promise. She would not abandon the house, nor the man who trusted her with it. 2 weeks later, the first hearing convened in family court, a stone edifice whose columns loomed like chastising fingers. Naya walked through security metal detectors, clutching a folder of visitor logs, grocery receipts, and photos showing Elijah on the porch, reading while she raked leaves. Evidence of quiet, ordinary days seldom captured in estate disputes. Regina arrived draped in charcoal wool, Tasha in cream suede boots. Their attorney, a tall woman named Miss Yarborough, greeted Ellis with the chilly courtesy of sparring partners. In the corridor, Regina's glance raked Naya's thrift store blazer. "You should have taken my offer," she murmured. "A cash settlement saves embarrassment." Naya steadied her voice. "Some things can't be bought. Your father knew that." Regina's pupils flashed like cold spoons. "You were never family." Just a season inside, fluorescent lights hummed while Judge Herrera skimmed pleadings. Ms. Yarborough painted a portrait of a lonely old man, memory frayed, manipulated by a charming young caregiver. Naya wanted to laugh at Young, but kept face still. Yarborough submitted affidavits from two distant cousins claiming Elijah had complained of confusion. Ellis countered with medical records: mild arthritis, clear cognition, weekly chess club scores proving sharpness. Then Ellis called Mr. DeMarco, Elijah's chess rival, to testify. DeMarco explained how Elijah still plotted 3 moves ahead 6 weeks before death, even muttering Sicilian defense variations. Naya watched Regina's attorney frown. Jurists respect objective games. During a recess, Regina intercepted Naya by the water fountain. "Public gets ugly, dear," she whispered. "Taisha's followers already ask why Grandpa's house sold for sympathy." Naya straightened. "House isn't for sale." Regina's smile widened, but eyes did not. "Everything's for sale. Price just needs heat." Back in session, Ellis submitted the letter Elijah wrote. Regina's side objected. Hearsay. Judge Herrera admitted it provisionally. Naya read it aloud again. Voice breaking where Elijah described trying to give Taisha life skills instead of hashtags. At those words, Taisha's posture folded. She stared at her boots. Court adjourned with no ruling. Continuance granted for discovery. Outside, media had gathered, small, local, but hungry. A reporter angled a mic. "Ms. Carter, did you lure Mr. Brooks away from family assets?" Ellis blocked the lens. Taisha lingered behind cameras, hands deep in pockets, not filming. A telling silence. That evening, Naya unlocked the brownstone to find an envelope slipped under the door. "We know where you live," scrawled in red marker. Beneath it, a crude drawing of a house on fire. Adrenaline spiked. She checked locks, windows. Nothing broken. She called the 24-hour precinct. Officers took a statement, dusted for prints, promised extra patrols. Under the lamp's glow, she studied the note's messy strokes, probably teenage intimidation, maybe Regina's spiteful cousin. Either way, the threat tasted bitter. She brewed chamomile, sat at the chessboard. White pawn still on e4, black knight on f6. She advanced the bishop, a line slicing open the board's center. "Counterplay," Elijah would say. "Surprise them where they feel safe." Rain hammered rooftops. She typed a resignation email to her second job at the grocery, a brutal necessity. Court costs would devour savings. She needed evenings free to prepare. Before sending, she hesitated. Quitting meant surrendering income. Yet juggling 2 jobs in a court battle risked everything. She pressed delete, replaced resignation with a request for fewer shifts. 1 pawn at a time, she told herself. Saturday brought the neighborhood fall festival. Volunteers strung orange pennants between lampposts. Barbecue smoke married early cold air. Naya manned the pie contest table, Elijah's rolling pin tucked in her tote like a baton passed between generations. She wasn't there to win. She was there to root herself in a community that might testify on her behalf if Regina's narrative spread. Children lined up to taste sweet potato filling. Miss Lenora, apron flour dusted, winked. See? Wheat and weeds. She meant neighbors witnessing character rather than gossip. Naya served slices, laughing when cinnamon dust tickled her nose. Halfway through the afternoon, she spotted Taisha hovering near a cider stand, phone lowered. Naya waved her over. Taisha approached slowly, like a kitten unsure of new hands. She sampled pie, eyes widening. This tastes like Grandpa's. Same recipe, Naya said. He added orange zest. They walked among booths of thrift coats and knitted scarves. Street musicians strummed "A Change Is Gonna Come," notes curling into cloudy breath. Taisha confessed quietly, Mama escalates because losing control scares her. After Dad died, Grandpa was her last anchor. When he willed the house away, she felt cut adrift. Naya listened, wind tugging loose braids around her ear. Anchors aren't walls, she said. Sometimes they're bridges if we let them be. She hesitated, then offered, Judge might order mediation. If so, I'll propose something humane. You can host your art pop-ups in the parlor one weekend a month. Grandpa loved your sketches. Taisha's mouth parted. You do that? It's still his house, Naya replied. I'm just living the lesson he left. Evening settled. String lights blinked on, bathing the festival in warm luminescence that made asphalt shimmer like river water. A marching band drum line practiced at the far end, beats vibrating chest bones. Naya closed her booth, leftover pie tins empty. Lenora hugged her. Justice loves patience, child. Let them smell your kindness when they try to torch your field. They'll choke on it. Walking home, Naya found a small packet of marigold seeds slipped into her tote, no note attached. She remembered the unopened seed packet Elijah once mailed Regina. Maybe Lenora had tucked these as symbolic armor. She smiled, pressing the packet against her chest. At the brownstone's gate, she paused, sensing someone behind. Taisha stepped from the shadows, coat hood up. She handed Naya a flash drive. Family videos, proof Grandpa was lucid. Her voice shook. I want truth, even if it hurts Mama. Naya accepted, feeling the weight far greater than its plastic. Taisha continued. If she knew I gave you this, she'd call me traitor. But you can't heal bleeding by pretending it's paint. She exhaled, shoulders lowering. Good night. Inside, Naya cued the drive on Elijah's television. Footage flickered. Elijah teaching chess at the community center, joking how nights move like Philly traffic. 2 over, 1 up, 'cause ain't nobody going straight here. Another clip. Him critiquing Taisha's mural sketches, suggesting she add more. Sky so dreams got room. His wit sharp, smile alive. Evidence in 1080p. Tears blurred the screen. She pressed a hand to the TV glass as if feeling his warmth through pixels. Outside, wind rattled the ivy, but the house felt steady. She copied the files to 3 backups, labeled them truth. Before bed, she pried up a loose floorboard Elijah had once joked about fixing next decade. Beneath, tucked in cigar box, she placed Taisha's flash drive alongside the marigold seeds. 2 quiet weapons, memory and renewal. She replaced the board, stood, and whispered into dark hallways, Storm's coming, old friend. But I'm planting anyway. The boiler kicked on with a comforting sigh, heat rising through iron pipes, groaning like a giant stretching old bones. Naya closed her eyes, listening to that rhythm. Homework breathing, lawsuits waiting, house settling into the cold season. Somewhere beyond, Regina rehearsed new strategies. Lawyers drafted interrogatories, yet inside these walls, seeds waited and pawns advanced. Across the chessboard, Black Bishop slid to e7 in her mind's eye, guarding the king. Her next move whispered like a promise, protect, advance, refuse surrender. She climbed the stairs, each tread a quiet drumbeat, carrying into dreams where Elijah watched from a porch, nodding approval, marigolds bright at his feet. The first vandal struck at 3 a.m., long after trolley bells quit clanging and the neighborhood cats ceded the sidewalks to raccoons. Naya woke to a pop like cheap fireworks, then the urgent reek of aerosol. She flew downstairs in Elijah's robe, heart rag-dolling against her ribs. On the stoop, a shadow sprayed neon orange letters across the brownstone's front door. Thief! Motion light snapped on. The figure, teenage boy, hood up, bolted, trainers slapping wet pavement. Naya chased 2 steps, then froze. Adrenaline isn't courage once you remember you're alone. Sirens lay blocks away, lazy as distant thunder. She grabbed her phone, snapped photos of the tag, then doused the door with vinegar solution, scrubbing until orange streaks turned watery gold. By sunrise, only a faint ghost of pigment remained, but the smell of solvent clung like accusation. She emailed the photos to Ellis. He replied at dawn, no greeting, just document every incident. Pattern of intimidation reinforces our narrative. Coffee couldn't still the tremor in her fingers as she typed incident reports for police and insurance. Outside, neighbors gathered in sympathetic clusters. Old Mr. Klein offered sandpaper for the remaining tint. 2 Temple students volunteered to repaint. Miss Lenora marched up with a bucket of marigolds. Plant defiance, she declared, stabbing trowel into earth. Tiny orange suns took root beneath smeared orange slur. Symmetry Elijah would have savored. Taisha arrived mid-morning, eyes ringed by insomnia. She knelt beside the marigolds, silent, before blurting, I think I know who did it. Mama's cousin Rayvon brags about spray rights on TikTok. His handle is at Brooksy Blaze. Shame dropped her chin. He loves Mama's approval. Hates the lawsuit, dragging Naya brush soil from her palm. She sent him? Maybe just vented and he ran with it, Taisha muttered. Family heat travels faster than truth. They sat on the stoop where Elijah used to sip sweet tea and swear city sunsets tasted of cherry phosphate. Taisha pulled a paper from her jacket, a cease and desist drafted by Regina's lawyer ordering Naya to remove Taisha's videos from evidence, citing copyright. She found out I gave you Grandpa's footage, Taisha whispered. Says I betrayed blood. Naya folded the paper without reading. You shared memories, not secrets. Court cares about authenticity. So do I. Wind nudged the marigolds. New petals trembled but didn't fall. Authenticity can outlast graffiti, she murmured. That night she installed motion sensor cameras above the porch, angled to capture both alley and street. The tiny red recording light flickered like a guardian ember. She slept on the sofa, bat-wrapped in blanket at arm's length, chessboard pieces lined up on the coffee table, defenders standing watch. A week later, both legal teams convened in a stale conference suite for discovery exchange. Stacks of bankers' boxes flanked the walls like opposing fortresses. Regina's side produced home health invoices claiming Naya controlled Elijah's meds. Ellis countered with pharmacy receipts showing Regina's signature. Back and forth until mid-afternoon when Ms. Yarborough slid forward a brittle newspaper clipping from 2009, community aid worker arrested at protest. Naya stiffened. The photo showed her younger self locked arm with activists blocking eviction trucks. Charges had been dismissed, but headlines seldom mention epilogues. Yarborough's smile twitched. Pattern of radical behavior, Your Honor, undermining fiduciary reliability. Judge Herrera raised an eyebrow. Ellis requested sidebar. In the pause, Regina leaned toward Naya. Whisper hiss. Courts dislike agitators. You'll lose the house and your job in one gavel. Naya's pulse pounded. Memory flashed. Tear gas sting. Chant thick air. Her arresting officer's hands surprisingly gentle. She had protested for Miss Garvey, an 80-year-old tenant priced out of her own duplex. Elijah had later told Naya, "Heroics get headlines, but consistency wins mortgages." Yet he'd never shamed her for that day. Judge Herrera returned, ruling the article admissible only if Yarborough could link protest to Elijah's final year. Yarborough folded, but damage had grazed skin. Naya exhaled, steady but shaken. During lunch break, Taisha surprised Naya with a brown bag of empanadas. "Mama's watering weeds with gasoline," she said, voice small. "I feel like kindling." Naya smiled sadly. "Kindling makes warmth if guided." She handed Taisha a sealed envelope, Ellis's subpoena for Ravon, ready for service. Taisha bit her lip, nodded. Afternoon ended with scheduling order, mediation in 30 days, trial set for February if unresolved. Outside, Philadelphia's skyline bled gold into river dusk. Regina swept past, remarking to reporters that justice would correct elderly confusion. Cameras whirred. Naya kept walking. Taisha trailed, eyes haunted. Halfway to the trolley stop, Naya's phone pinged, motion camera alert. She opened the feed, 2 hooded figures ripping up marigolds, spray can in hand. She double-tapped Zoom, heart tightening. It was Ravon and another teen mid-tag. Without hesitating, she dialed 911, then pedaled Hayes bike share like a time trial. Police arrived first, cruiser lights washing brick and blue strobe. Teens bolted, Ravon stumbled, caught by ankle-high ivy roots Elijah planted to hold soil. Officers cuffed him gently. Naya arrived breathless, phone cam still streaming to cloud. Ravon glared, then dropped his eyes. Paint dripped from his sleeve like melted tangerine popsicle. As officers read Miranda, Taisha sprinted up, tears streaking makeup. "Ravon, why?" he muttered. "Family gotta fight, T." She knelt, gripping his cuffed hands. "There are better fights." Her voice cracked. "Grandpa loved you, too." The word love sliced air. Ravon's shoulders sagged. Police took statements. Naya declined pressing full charges, opting for restorative justice referral. Officer Ramirez nodded. Community courts like that. Ravon stared at Naya, confusion warring shame. "You won't punish me?" "Consequences, yes," she said quietly, "but punishment without purpose is just another spray can. You ready for soap and scrapers? A jerks?" Restorative Circle convened at the rec center basement 2 evenings later. Folding chairs, coffee urn, stale cookies. Participants: Ravon, his mother Deirdre, Taisha, Naya, Officer Ramirez, and facilitator Ms. Leone with calm voice and fierce afro. Walls bore murals of black inventors. The graffiti of legal conflict felt miles away. Ravon spoke first, eyes on floor. "I tagged the house 'cause Auntie Regina said Ms. Naya stealing legacy. I wanted to scare her some." Naya listened, arms uncrossed. When her turn came, she described Elijah's kindness. Teaching Ravon checkers, slipping him bus fare. "He left me the house to keep those doors open longer." She asked Ravon what legacy meant to him. He shrugged. "Something you can live in once elders die." "Legacy's also what you live out," Naya said. "Your art? Use color to build, not bruise." Circle ended with agreement. Ravon would repaint door, plant new marigolds, and film a community tutorial on restorative art. Deirdre thanked Naya through tears. Tisha squeezed Naya's hand, whispering, "You turned a weapon into a brush." Outside, street lamps buzzed halo. Tisha removed a folded sheet from her purse, a notarized statement recanting any claim of Elijah's incapacity. Mama won't stop, she said, voice trembling. But I can. She pressed the document into Naya's palm. The weight felt heavier than the flash drive. Court filing shifted next day. Yarborough motioned to withdraw Taisha as co-plaintiff. Public narrative tipped. Local blog West Philly Ledger published an op-ed, Widow Defends Vet's Legacy. Comment threads, once split, veered supportive. Ellis emailed at midnight, "Momentum is yours, stay measured." The brownstone door warmed under fresh coat of deep crimson, Rayvon's choice to honor Elijah's favorite Phillies cap. Beneath, rows of marigolds glowed. Rayvon's tutorial video hit 2,000 views, how to turn damage into color. Naya celebrated by hosting first Friday night chess club in the parlor, kids from the block, Miss Lenora, DeMarco rival, even Taisha carrying lemon bars. Boards clicked, laughter ricocheted off crown molding. Naya realized the house no longer smelled of fear or solvent, but of spiced cocoa and new paint. Later, Taisha lingered while others left. "Mama filed emergency injunction," she said softly. "Court in 10 days. Naya poured tea into mismatched mugs. "We'll be ready." Taisha sipped, eyes glistening. "You really believe bridges outlast walls?" Naya glanced at the crimson door, then at the pawn she'd promoted to queen in that night's final game. "Brick cracks," she said, "but foundations learn." Thunder rumbled distant again, November's drum roll. Yet inside, lamps burned steady. Marigold petals floated in a jar on the mantel like captured suns. Under floorboard, seeds waited. As seeds do, certain spring eventually keeps its appointment. Wind herded low clouds across Philadelphia, corralling them against the copper dome of City Hall until the sky looked like bruised marble. By 8 a.m., Naya stood on the courthouse steps, cheeks numb, palms sweating inside knit gloves. Behind her, the brownstone door, fresh crimson, newly christened by autumn rain, felt a whole ZIP code away. She pressed Elijah's fountain pen into her coat pocket the way some people clutched rosaries, a reminder that steady ink can outlast loud voices. Inside, fluorescent corridors smelled of floor wax and nerves. Ellis briefed her near the elevators. "Judge Herrera gave us 45 minutes. Regina's petition argues irreparable harm if you so much as change a light bulb before trial. We show community benefit, good faith, and her pattern of intimidation." He glanced at the envelope of police reports and Rayvon's restorative circle agreement. "Facts over fireworks." Breathe, Naya nodded, but breath snagged when she spotted Regina flanked by Miss Yarborough and 2 sharp-suited clerks. Regina's amethyst brooch glittered like a warning light. Taisha followed several paces behind, chin tucked, curls hiding half her face. She offered Naya a fleeting, fragile smile before scurrying to the witness anteroom. In courtroom 4, B pews filled quickly. Miss Lenora clutching a thermos of sassafras tea, DeMarco from chess club, tie misbuttoned, even Officer Ramirez in uniform, leaning against the back wall like unannounced security. Their presence lifted Naya's shoulders an inch. Bailiff intoned for silence. Judge Herrera entered, robe swirling like thunderclouds caught indoors. As attorneys stated appearances, Naya's phone vibrated, motion camera alert. She ignored it, eyes on the bench. "Not today, vandals, not now." Yarborough opened with polished urgency. The house was heritage under siege, its value diminished each day under disputed occupancy. She slid color prints of orange graffiti across counsel table, claiming Naya's provocative possession incited vandalism. Naya's pulse kicked. But Ellis rose smoothly, reminding the court that vandalism had been aimed at her, not by her, and that she had chosen community redirection over prosecution. A response that preserves neighborhood fabric, not tears it. Judge Herrera asked how an injunction would prevent harm. Yarborough pivoted to financial exploitation, tendering a photograph. Naya hosting Friday chess night, donation jar on mantle. Unlicensed gatherings for monetary gain, she alleged. Blood roared in Naya's ears. She remembered the jar contained $11 in quarters earmarked for new chess clocks. Ellis, unflustered, produced community center permits and affidavits. Educational event, voluntary donations, no profits retained. He handed up Rayvon's restorative justice paperwork. The only exploitation, he finished, has been the weaponizing of family resentment. Taisha was called. Shoes clicked like metronomes as she approached the stand. Regina's gaze bored holes into her daughter's back. Yarborough's smile faltered. Under oath, Taisha confirmed Elijah's clarity, described his peach cobbler tests. If I forget the secret spice, take my car keys. Soft laughter rippled. Then, voice wavering but resolute, she admitted providing Naya with family videos to refute incapacity claims. Did anyone coerce you? Ellis asked. No. Threats? Payments? None. Judge Herrera leaned forward. Why share them? Taisha's reply landed like hush after hymns. Because truth doesn't need a side door. Regina's face stiffened. Yarborough declined cross-examination. Bailiff announced final witness. Officer Ramirez outlined the vandalism timeline, noting Regina's cousin Rayvon confessed, citing family pressure. Herrera flicked brow upward at Yarborough, who pursed lips. Ellis closed. Ms. Carter waters marigolds over malice. Injunction would reward intimidation. Equity should not side with the loudest shout, but with the steady act of stewardship, Judge Herrera requested 15 minutes to confer with case law. Gavel tapped recess. In the hallway, Regina cornered Naya near vending machines humming like uneasy crickets. You turned my own child, she hissed, perfume mingling with metallic coffee scent. You want the world to see me cruel. Naya steadied her breath. I want the world, starting with you, to see Elijah. Not the price tag stapled to his memories, Regina's laugh cracked. Memories don't pay closing costs. That house kept our name alive. It can still, Naya said softly, surprising even herself. Open house concerts, art showcases with Taisha's murals, scholarship dinners. I'd put his portrait in the hall, but not if getting there means scraping people like gum off a shoe. Regina's stare flickered, something almost vulnerable passing before shutters slammed. You sound like a preacher. Just a woman tired of funeral dinners that never end, Naya said. We could break bread instead of wills. You'd share after all this, Regina whispered. Not disbelief exactly, more like fear of believing. Naya offered a card. Neighborhood Fall Festival Committee under her name. Next meeting Tuesday. Chairs empty. Show up and choose legacy over lawsuit. Regina didn't take the card. Yarborough summoned her back toward courtroom. Naya slipped the card into Regina's purse side pocket as she brushed past. An invitation planted like seed, not weapon. Minutes later, they filed before the bench. Judge Herrera's eyes were stern yet not unkind. Petition for temporary injunction is denied. Movement failed to show irreparable harm that monetary damages could not remedy. Furthermore, the court is troubled by evidence of harassment towards respondent. She paused, gaze pinning Regina. Any further intimidation may factor into sanctions at trial. Gavel fell, not thunder, but decisive knock. Ellis exhaled. Naya did too. Yarborough packed files briskly. Regina froze, brooch glinting like frost in noon sun. As spectators dispersed, Taisha hugged Naya, whispering, "Judge just promoted your pawn." Naya chuckled, tension melting. Officer Ramirez tipped his cap. Miss Lenora pressed a wrapped slice of pound cake into Naya's hand. Sweet beats bitter. Outside, thin sun slipped through clouds. Rain never came. Reporters asked for statements. Naya simply said, "The house is bigger than all of us." Dusk draped Walton Avenue in violet. Naya unlocked the crimson door, exhaustion trailing like loose thread. Inside, lights welcome but didn't overwhelm. The brownstone felt aware like a pet waking when its person comes home. She brewed rooibos, settled in the parlor. The chessboard awaited, white pawn, black pieces repositioned from last game. She advanced the pawn to 8th rank, replaced it with a queen, then whispered, "Promotion earned." The move wasn't about power, it was about arrival. Phone buzzed. Text from Taisha. Left something on porch. Naya opened the door. On the mat sat the amethyst brooch Regina had worn, now pinned to a crisp folded note. Legacy is more than walls. No further words. She held the brooch under lamplight. Facets caught glow, projecting small constellations on ceiling plaster. Maybe olive branches sometimes wore gemstones instead of leaves. She placed the brooch on the mantel beside Elijah's photograph, then fetched the marigold seed packet. With small scissors, she snipped it open, pocketed half the seeds for spring, and trickled the rest into a shallow clay dish, an act, a promise. Tomorrow she'd mix them into soil along the sidewalk, letting orange hope root where old spray paint stains had finally faded to nothing. Midnight chimed on the mantel clock Elijah repaired the year before he died. Outside, leaves whispered along gutters. Inside, floorboards settled into silence that sounded content rather than abandoned. She climbed the stairs, tired but lighter. Before switching off the bedside lamp, she wrote 2 sentences in her journal. Today, the gavel left a bruise but not a scar. Some doors lock to keep danger out. Others lock to keep courage in until it's ready. Sleep took her quick, dreamless. In the stillness downstairs, the new queen on the board caught moonlight, casting a sliver of brightness across the ebony king still waiting his turn. Proof that games end, but stories keep playing past any checkmate announced aloud. February snow crusted West Philadelphia and brittle sugar the morning Regina called. Naya, halfway through folding donation letters for the chess club, eyed the ringing phone as one might a restless beehive. She answered anyway. Regina's voice sounded different. No lavender-coated steel, more like tin warmed over a low flame. "I don't plan to win tomorrow," Regina said without preamble. "Judge Herrera's clerk hinted at sanctions if I press." Naya waited, pulse steady. "I have a proposal," Regina continued. "Elijah's will stands, but the house could carry his name more publicly. You retain residence. First floor becomes the Elijah Brooks Community Arts Trust. Non-profit, tax deductible. I'll withdraw the suit if you sign today." Naya pictured the parlor, crimson door, marigold prints on fresh plaster, kids hunched over rooks and bishops. Could the space widen without breaking? She asked for 24 hours, Regina allowed 12. "Noon deadline," she said, then added softer, "I'm tired, Naya." After the call, Naya walked room to room, evaluating corners with tape measure eyes. Trust board meetings, exhibit walls, after-school sax lessons. Each possibility pulled at square footage and at memory. She brewed coffee and watched steam coil through window frost, recalling Elijah's voice. Compromise tastes bitter until you season it with purpose. Taisha arrived near lunchtime, paint flecks in her curls from mural prep at the rec center. Naya relayed Regina's plan. Taisha's brows lifted. Mama surrendering pride, either apocalypse or awakening. She paced, then smiled at the empty dining room. Grandpa always wanted strangers to hear brass echo through these walls. By evening, Naya had drafted her counterterms. Governing board to include community members. Ravon offered paid apprentice role. Regina's financial oversight limited to fundraising, not decision-making. Ellis faxed the document. Regina accepted within an hour. No edits. The silence after the confirmation felt like snowfall in a churchyard. Quiet, inevitable, strangely bright. Naya marked midnight by leaning Elijah's portrait against the parlor mantel. Tomorrow, she whispered, the house grows roots and branches at once. Next morning, snowmelt puddled at City Hall's marble steps, reflecting sky the color of pewter trumpets. Reporters still clustered, cameras eager for fireworks that would never light. Inside 4B, Judge Herrera reviewed the joint stipulation, glasses low on nose. I see both parties have reached accord, she said, voice carrying mild surprise. Ellis nodded. Yarborough's tight bun looked looser, as though even her hair exhaled. Regina sat beside Taisha, hands folded around a single marigold bloom. Orange defiance turned olive branch. Herrera outlined the settlement for the record. Deed remains with Naya Carter. First floor trust charter to be filed within 60 days. Property tax abatement pending cultural center certification. Plaintiffs withdraw all claims with prejudice. She paused, then addressed Regina directly. Litigation should illuminate truth, not scorch it. Your late husband's intentions are clearer today than when this began. I trust you'll honor them. Henceforth, Regina mouthed, Yes, Your Honor, and for the first time her eyes held no blaze, only weary mist. Gavel struck once, no echo, case closed. Outside, microphones swarmed. Regina declined comment, instead taking Taisha's arm and guiding her toward a waiting cab. Taisha glanced back, lifted a thumb in shaky salute. Naya waved, feeling something unclench behind her sternum. Ellis joined her on the sidewalk, breath puffing white. You turned a property dispute into a community grant. Not bad, Ms. Carter. Elijah turned it, she replied. I just moved the pieces. Ellis chuckled. Queen's Gambit accepted. He tipped his hat and disappeared into snow flurries. June sunlight pooled like melted brass across Walton Avenue. The crimson door stood open, inviting neighbors to the inaugural Elijah Brooks jazz porch. Paper lanterns swayed. Marigolds burst in layered tiers along the steps. Inside, parlor walls now wore Taisha's vibrant triptych of West Philly stoops, each panel crowned by a tiny golden pawn. Ravon, paint-stained overalls traded for soundboard crew tea, balanced volumes as a trio tuned horns. In the new reading nook, Miss Lenora curated chess tutorials for giggling 8-year-olds. Regina arrived last, arm-linked with Sister Delaney for moral ballast. She carried a plate of lemon bars, store-bought, but dusted with powdered sugar to hide the plastic taste of humility. Naya greeted her on the threshold, no paperwork between them, only music. They stood together while Taisha introduced the first set. Trumpet notes leapt, quicksilver and hopeful, ricocheting off refurbished tin ceiling and breezing through open windows into the street. Neighbors swayed. Children tapped plastic cups like auxiliary drums. Regina whispered, He'd have loved this. Naya nodded, eyes on the band. He already does. As twilight deepened, solar lights ignited along window boxes, glimmering like tiny constellations anchoring the brownstone to its block. Inside, A ribbon-cutting photo from the spring hung above the mantel. Naya, Taisha, Regina, Rayvon, and a line of neighborhood kids, all holding scissors too large for their hands, all laughing. Beneath it, Elijah's portrait watched, chessboard reflection glinting in his wire-rimmed glasses. At evening's end, Naya lingered alone on the stoop, warm cup of hibiscus tea cooling in her palm. Around her, brass echoes curled with the scent of grilled corn and city pavement finally relinquishing heat. She thought of the first day she'd crossed this threshold, orange slur, cold accusation, and how the same bricks now hummed with saxophone vibrations and children's checkmate cheers. Marigold petals drifted onto her lap like small suns. She tucked one into her journal beside Elijah's fountain pen and wrote, "A house is not peace, it is the place where peace is practiced." Today we played it in B-flat, streetlights clicked on, and for a breath the porch felt like the hinge between memory and promise, exactly the spot Elijah had hoped it would become. Naya raised her cup to the night sky and, hearing distant horns riff toward a soft cadence, whispered, "Game over, Grandpa." We won.